You're here because, well, you want to cut through the noise, right?
Mhm.
Grab the essential knowledge, maybe have those aha moments.
Yeah, those little sparks.
Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating ancient writings. They center around a prayer for deliverance.
And some related reflections, too. These aren't just, dusty old documents.
No.
They're quite raw, actually.
Wow.
Prayers, laments, thoughts on history,
Right. And they give us this amazing window into how a community saw, well, their relationship with the divine.
and their own story, their place in the world.
Exactly. So, our mission, if you will, is to pull out the key themes.
We're looking at sin, exile,
That whole action consequence thing.
yeah, and divine justice versus mercy, that tension.
And the search for wisdom. It's striking how these ancient worries dealing with hard times, trying to understand, still feel, well, pretty relevant today, don't they?
They really do. So where do we start?
Okay, let's unpack this prayer. The prayer for deliverance, how does it kick off?
It starts by looking back, grounding itself in history.
Okay.
It calls on the Lord, the God of Israel, reminding everyone, essentially, of the Exodus, the escape from Egypt.
The big one?
The big one, yeah, those acts of power. It sets the stage, reminding God and themselves of past deliverance. It's about establishing God's reputation, his name.
But then, almost instantly, there's a shift.
Right, oh, huge shift, yeah. Right after recalling this incredible freedom,
Man.
they just dive straight into confession. We have sinned, we have committed sacrilege, we have violated all your statutes. It's abrupt.
It really is, and they connect it directly, don't they?
They do. No beating around the bush.
Yeah.
They link these sins directly to why they're now scattered, fewer in number, living in exile.
So it's cause and effect in their minds.
Absolutely. A clear line.
Ah,
Our actions led to this suffering. That's their understanding.
and it's not just saying sorry. They're pleading, asking God to turn away his anger.
Yes. But the reasoning is interesting. It's not purely selfish, like make us feel better. It's also grant us favor, so the world knows you are our God.
Ah, so it's tied to God's reputation again, among the nations.
Exactly how Israel reflects on God's name. And then there's this fascinating contrast they make. The living and the dead. They state pretty bluntly that the dead down in Hades can't declare God's glory.
Hades, like the Greek underworld.
Yeah, the term was often used then. The point is, only the living, even in their suffering, can still praise God, can still bear witness.
So even this awful suffering might have a point, a purpose.
It suggests that possibility, that enduring it allows for future praise, for acknowledging God's justice. And they're very clear they aren't asking for mercy based on, their ancestors being great.
Right, I noticed that. No boasting about the past.
No. They explicitly say, not on the just deeds of our ancestors do we base our plea. It's all about God's mercy meeting their current desperate need.
That humility, it's striking.
It really is. It's about present distress, not past glories.
Okay, so they've confessed, they've laid out their situation, then the text seems to shift. Again, recounting these prophetic warnings. What's key here?
Well, the warnings were apparently very specific.
How so?
The prophets, speaking for God, laid it out clearly. If you serve the king of Babylon, you can stay in the land. If not,
Things get bad.
very bad. No more joy, total desolation. It wasn't subtle. A direct choice.
And the text is equally direct about their response.
Painfully so. But we did not listen or serve the king of Babylon. No excuses.
And the consequences described are just harrowing.
They really are. Exactly what the prophets warned about, including that really disturbing image of ancestors' bones being dug up, left out in the open.
That detail just hits hard. It shows the severity.
It absolutely does. It underlines the scale of the disaster they felt they'd caused. And they apply this blame even to the temple, the house which bears your name.
They see its current state as their fault, too.
Their fault and their ancestors. This idea of intergenerational sin and consequence is really strong here, a heavyweight.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? The mood shifts again. We get the section on God's promises recalled.
Yes, like a ray of hope cutting through. Even while acknowledging the punishment, there's this deep belief in God's mercy, his clemency.
So what promises are they remembering?
Those given through Moses. It's a mix, actually. There's the warning about being scattered for disobedience,
Which happened.
which happened, but also a promise of a future change of heart while they're in exile.
A change of heart, like an internal shift.
Exactly. A transformation from within. That seems key for restoration.
And this change isn't just feeling bad, right? It's more.
It seems to be. The text mentions getting a heart and ears that listen. like a renewed ability to actually hear and follow God.
And that leads to praise, even in exile.
That's the idea. Remembering God's name, praising him. Even there, it implies exile isn't the end state.
Just a phase.
It's a phase for potential spiritual change, leading eventually to return. The promise is to bring them back to the land of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
And establish an eternal covenant. That sounds pretty permanent.
It does. And that final line in the section is powerful. I will never again remove my people Israel from the land I gave them. It sounds unconditional.
Wow. So they're holding on to that hope even now, but then, boom, back to the present pain, the anguished soul crying out.
It really is an emotional roller coaster, this text. The present pain is constantly linked back to past sin, that cycle again. And there's that heartbreaking appeal contrasting God's eternity with their own feeling of perishing.
You are enthroned forever while we are perishing forever. Oof.
Yeah. And that phrase, the prayer of the dead of Israel,
What does that mean exactly?
it feels like they're acknowledging the ongoing impact of past generations' sins.
Yeah.
Like the consequences are still being felt by the living.
That weight of history again, shared
You-
responsibility.
And they ask God not to remember that past wickedness constantly, but to remember his own power, his own name.
And the fear of you instilled in them.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of that?
They suggest it's what enables them to call on God now, to praise him, even in exile, because they've turned from those ancestral sins.
I see. It's a motivator for change.
Perhaps. But they end that part reminding themselves and God of the grim reality. Still exiles, facing reproach, curses, punishment, partly for what their ancestors did.
It's so complex, this mix of personal and inherited responsibility. So where do they go from here? Is there a path forward offered?
Yes, and this is a really significant turn. The text says, "Hear, Israel, the commandments of life."
Like a direct instruction.
Exactly, a path forward. It uses these rhetorical questions. Why are you in enemy lands, grown old, defiled?
To highlight what they've lost.
Precisely. Their dignity, their purpose, and then the core diagnosis. You have forsaken the fountain of wisdom.
The fountain of wisdom. That's quite an image.
Isn't it? And the direct result, the text says, is no lasting peace.
So wisdom equals peace.
That's the link it makes. It urges them. Learn where prudence is, where strength, where understand. These aren't just abstract ideas. No, they're tied to concrete things. Long life, real life, light, peace. Wisdom leads to actual well-being.
Practical wisdom.
Yes, the kind that makes a difference in how you live.
Okay, but then it talks about how hard wisdom is to find, right? Like it's hidden.
It does. It asks, who's actually found it? Who's gotten into her treasure vaults?
And the answer seems to be not the usual suspect.
Right. Not the powerful rulers, the ones who piled up silver and gold. They came and went. Their power didn't bring true understanding.
And not later generations either, apparently.
Even with hindsight, they missed the path. Then it does this kind of geographical search.
Checking locations.
Sort of. Wisdom isn't in Canaan, not in Taman, not found among the famously worldly wise people, descendants of Hagar, merchants, storytellers.
It's like it's eliminating all the human sources. Power, wealth, trade, learning.
Exactly. It's stressing human limits.
Yeah.
This kind of profound wisdom isn't something you just figure out or buy or inherit through normal earthly channels.
So if people can't find it on their own, where does it come from?
And that is the pivot. Divine revelation.
So God has it.
The text asserts that firmly. Only God, the creator, the one running the universe, sending lightning, commanding stars only. He truly knows wisdom.
His power demonstrates his knowledge.
Precisely. And then the key statement. He has uncovered the whole way of understanding.
Yeah.
And has given her to Jacob, his servant, to Israel, his beloved.
Given it. Like a gift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's revealed, not just earned through struggle. God graciously gives it to his people. And there's that lovely image of wisdom appearing on earth, being at home with mortals.
So it's accessible.
Accessible, yes, but through God's initiative. And it's not vague. It's identified very clearly.
As what?
As the book of the precepts of God, the law that endures forever.
So wisdom is the law, God's instructions.
That's the explicit connection made here. It's practical guidance, and the choice is crystal clear. Hold on to it, you get life. Abandon it, you get death.
Wow. No gray area there.
Not really. It's presented as the path forward. The call to Jacob, to Israel, is turn back to this, walk in its light.
Right.
Don't give away your unique privilege, your glory, by chasing other things.
And it wraps up that section with a real sense of, well, confidence.
Yeah, that concluding thought. Blessed are we, O Israel, for what pleases God is known to us. It's this profound statement of assurance.
The blessing is knowing the way.
Knowing what pleases God, knowing the path to life through this revealed wisdom. It's quite definitive.
So bringing this deep dive together, we've traced the cycle, haven't we?
Have sin, consequence, suffering.
But always that thread of hope, of divine mercy, the promise of return.
And finally, this strong emphasis on wisdom, revealed wisdom, God's law as the ultimate key.
The way out of the cycle.
The path to life and peace, yes. And it's amazing how these ancient struggles, with failure, with consequences, with seeking understanding and hope, they still echo, don't they, in our own lives, our own times.
They absolutely do. We all face challenges, search for meaning, look for a reliable path. It really makes you think.
What specifically?
Well, this connection between collective actions and collective consequences, you see it playing out in the text, but how does that work in our world today?
That's a big question.
It is. How does a community's or even a society's faithfulness to certain principles or its drift away from them shape where it ends up, and maybe even more personally? What does it really mean for us now to forsuck the fountain of wisdom? What does that fountain look like today?
That's definitely something to chew on.
Food for thought long after this deep dive. Thanks for exploring all this with us today.
My pleasure. Fascinating texts.